Welcome to This Love Works, the podcast that is raising the bar for exceptional relationships. Join psychotherapist Marianne Marlowe as she talks with couples who've mastered the art of healthy, passionate relationships. They explore what makes their real love work and dig into topics featuring cutting-edge research and relationship science. Let's listen in.
Hello, this is Marianne Marlowe of This Love Works. And I want to address this question that keeps coming up around compromise in relationships. And I think it comes up especially when couples start to think a little bit about how they manage conflict and what are some of the ways in which to manage conflict. So let's deconstruct this question a little bit and take a look at what the words mean and how these words are commonly used in our culture. So one definition of compromise is that it's an agreement that is reached by each side making concessions. And a definition of concession is a yielding to pressure or circumstances or admitting defeat. Wow. So essentially, compromise in relationship is characterized by each of us conceding or giving something up and doing so under pressure, admitting defeat. In other words, compromise in relationship is a lose-lose proposition. And if I'm giving something up under pressure and admitting defeat, I might definitely feel resentful really fast. So what is resentment in relationship? Well, resentment of any kind is just another word for one of the faces of anger. And we know that anger is a cover emotion for what's underneath it. So it can be really important for us to have an understanding about our own resentment, if we're feeling it, to understand what it is that we're really responding to. What is it that I'm triggered by? So it's very helpful to begin to take a look at what resentment really is in your relationship. And maybe we can see how to be more pro-relationship and interdependent, more supportive of managing competing decisions. So let's flip the script. So as I said, maybe let's first take a look at how we manage competing viewpoints, how we manage competing desires or decisions in our relationships. And we need to be really honest with ourselves about what our thoughts are, what our feelings are, and how we have tended to behave with regard to competition in the past. We can also look to how our family of origin managed competition as a way of getting a bit of a glimpse into what might be informing us now. So competition, even so-called healthy competition, creates a defensiveness in the brain that heightens our protective behaviors. It informs us to watch out. It enables us to focus and direct and redirect our behaviors. And many experience competition as exhilarating. And even some measure of it in relationship can ignite a spark of variety or interest. It can even ignite some sexual attraction. But over time, the stress of that heightened state of awareness and vigilance in our relationships can lead to suspicion, a lack of trust, and cause wariness and opposition, which then engenders fear and can lead to some of the defensive strategies that are meant to keep us safe. So it may seem counterintuitive that when we see our partner as distinctly different from me, that I need to compromise less. Meaning that when we are more individuated in relationship, I can see my person as separate of me with separate interests, points of view, and even maybe beliefs. And I love them not in spite of those things, but because of those things, I am much more tolerant of the tension that exists in the relationship. And that tension can even have that same exhilarating quality rather than being worrisome. So, safety and security is created in relationships that experiences differences, that honor those differences, and stay clear about what is important to me and also what is important to my person without being compromising or yielding to what is expected of me, rather than being honored and respected for exactly who I am. So, second, when I'm faced with a situation during which I may be asked to compromise or give something up, I better get clear about what it is that I really want or long for. And I have to distinguish that from what I need, what my needs are. So, as a couple, when we can allow ourselves the freedom to understand the distinct difference between our wants and our needs, and how those wants and needs affect our relationship, we've already come a long way in making a decision about who's responsible for what in our relationship. So we know that we partner up, we draw people to us to help us get our wants and desires met, and even maybe help us to get our needs met. So, as a general rule of thumb, we can think about our wants, our desires, our longings as behaviors that we ask our partner for help with. And if we don't get our partner's help, we're still going to be okay. I might be a little disappointed, but I'm going to be okay. Now, needs, on the other hand, are those expressions of love, or the desire for those expressions of love, safety, and security that help me to stay emotionally grounded and stable. And they are reassurances, behaviors, mindsets, and emotions that I am ultimately responsible for providing for myself if I can't get that help from my husband or my partner. So an example of this might be that I want to connect with my husband every day, and I want to emotionally check in with each other. And if my husband is unavailable for, or disinterested in, or he's focused elsewhere on something, or he simply doesn't want to emotionally check in with me, he may not have the bandwidth, or he may be too tired, then I can decide on how I want to manage it. I may be able to skip over it. I may decide to journal and offload some of my emotions, or I might just wait for another time, or I can simply skip it for now. But I will be just fine. However, if I know that I have, say, a need for physical touch, and my husband is unavailable for it, or disinterested in it, or focused elsewhere, or he simply may not want to give me physical touch, I'm still going to have to meet that need on my own. I'm going to have a hard time feeling emotionally stabilized if it's one of my needs, and I'm going to need to get a massage for myself. Or maybe I get a hug from a friend, but I wouldn't want to do without that. I wouldn't feel as emotionally connected or stabilized. So the lack of this need being met may have an effect on my mood and how I cope with the hurt and destabilization of my emotions. So getting clear about those things that you want as distinguished from those things that you need in a situation I'm being asked to compromise in is going to enable me to decide how I want to relate to this particular situation. When my desire to be with my husband is more important about the decision about the kind of food that I want, or that I'm being asked to compromise on, I can decide how I want to behave. It becomes very clear. Or as one of my mentors so movingly shared, she said, the answer to where would you like to go for dinner, honey? When that's answered with, I don't care where we go to dinner, as long as it is with you, that creates clarity around the importance of what it is that you really want and what it is that you really need. Third, when I'm asked to compromise, I often want my husband to be different. When we are asked to compromise in situations, we want our person to do something different, or to stop doing something, or maybe to say something or stop saying something. The problem with that is when we base our happiness, contentment, or well-being on what we think someone else's behavior may be, what their thoughts might be, or their emotions, we're really on a road to hell paved with this never-ending anxiety, depression, or ambivalence. And I get on this mood roller coaster. So as an example, I work with many couples in which one member will say, I can really tell you how I can't share with you how I feel. I'm not comfortable doing that because you always freak out. And I don't want to upset you. So I'm going to keep this to myself. Now, not only is this a total projection on the other person, it's also a dysfunctional expression of what I think may be really misunderstanding what it is that my person is experiencing entirely. And I like to think about this as crossing over into my partner's lane. So what I mean by this is I haven't owned my story about you. I haven't really addressed my fears that something that I might say will affect you. I haven't really come to grips with my thoughts and judgments about you. In other words, I've projected all of those things onto you and made you the scapegoat of my emotional drama. So when I can share what I'm physically experiencing, when I can share the judgments or the stories that I make up or the things that I'm influenced by, and when I can share my emotions, all while using I statements, I can recognize my own lane, my own projections. And that's when I can let my partner off the hook for the stories that may not be true. And let's face it, as one of my couples pointed out, when you know somebody over a long period of time, you might guess. And it might even be true, but it is still experienced through my lens. And the decision that I make about what my husband's motives are or what meaning those experiences have for him, that's condescending and diminishing. So when I can own my own thoughts, my own feelings, my own sensations, that enables me then to decide what I want and what I need, and most importantly, what I am going to do to get that met. Now, I need not compromise about giving something up when I can take full responsibility for my own experience. And the journey is so much sweeter when I share getting my own wants and desires met with my partner. And I also help him to get his wants and desires met. And so, again, we can be completely uncompromising when we realize that a strong couple's bond, when I'm focused on that, I'm for my husband and he is for me. We work as couples to get each other's needs met. And we trust that we will each take responsibility when we can't quite get those needs or wants met by our person. And I'm open to getting that desire and need met from you. I too am making a commitment to help you get your needs met. So when we in relationship decide that our needs and our wants will be respected, honored, and met, even when they're not the same as my partner's, and maybe even especially then, that's when we experience true mutuality. When you work for win-win in relationship, compromise is irrelevant, and you will never feel resentful. This is Marianne Marlowe of This Love Works. Now, let's see how your love works. Bye for now.